Hi, my name is Michael Gilmore and I'm the writer of Whiz blog, and it's great to have you here for this Saturday Musings. And this Saturday Musings, I'm going to give you an insight to an aspect of my life you may not be aware of. And that's the fact that I'm deep down inside, I'm a gamer. Now, I remember many years ago when I was about 12 years old, 13 years old, I remember my first experience with games. A friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, and he came around to my house, and my father managed to borrow a TRS-80 computer. If you remember, the TRS-80 computer had 16K of RAM, and I thought, how could you possibly use all of that memory? Nowadays, you think about it like an email is about, 50 times that in size. But we began to play a game. We played a game called Saratoga, and it was a Star Trek versus Klingons type game. It was a lot of fun. It was great. Then we began learning programming of, look, what can we do with this thing? How can we get the computer to do things that we want it to do? And of course, because the computers was borrowed, it went away, and so we thought, well, how do we get a computer from somewhere else? And so every week on a Saturday morning, we would ride our bikes up to the local Tandy Electronics stores, like a Radio Shack, and we would go to the back, and for whatever reason, the managers let us do this literally week after week, and we would sit down for hours programming, learning to program this TRS-80. And I think the manager would say something like, "If these kids can do it, so you can as well." And it's an educational tool. It was a bit like that, and it was a lot of fun. It was an amazing time, and as we began to learn how to program a computer in BASIC. Then a few years later, I managed to save up enough money during a holiday job to be able to buy my own computer. And it was a TRS-80 clone called the System 80 here in Australia. And the thing to understand about them is they had cassette decks to store tapes on, to store programs on. So you key all this stuff in, and then you save it. It may take 5 minutes to save the program. It would just take a long time to save. And then it'll take that long just to load. I can still remember some of the commands, C load and C save for a cassette save and cassette load. And but I end up delving a bit further into the computer and learning an assembler language. So you're actually dealing with the accumulator and memory locations, all that sort of stuff. And it was an incredible experience of just learning. I remember as a kid, there was a book about that fat by Rodney Zacks, and it was called Z80 Programming. And I learned, I read it. I read it from cover to cover and learned how to program and write programs for the Z80 based processor computers. When I went along and I did a degree then in electronics and computer science. And halfway through my degree, I thought I need to get a holiday job to earn some money. I thought, what would I really like to do? And it was games. And so there's a company called Melbourne House, and Melbourne House was a very innovative, groundbreaking company at the time. And I had the opportunity to work on this particular game here, and it was Lord of the Rings, the very first Lord of the Rings. Now, to understand this game was all text-based, but every now and then they put a graphic in there, and to draw the graphic, it would literally take a few minutes to draw all the different parts of this vector graphic. Like, once again, it was incredible. Like, you look at it nowadays, and you think, that's just ridiculous. Did anyone actually play this game? You'd have to work out the words, go west or go east, and attack goblin or whatever. But it was it was it was really an experience working on that. Now, we were trying to compact the whole of Lord of the Rings, that this is game one in the series, into 32K of RAM. 32K, it was nothing. I was actually wrote a lot of the input-output routines and things like that for this particular game. And we would do anything to save bits, let alone bytes. Um, and it was an incredible experience. So my vacation job finished, and then I went back to university, and I did some more of my course and so forth like that. And I must admit, I was one of those strange individuals which would just take subjects, not because I needed credits, because I already had enough credits. I would just take them, attend them, not bother doing the exams. Why? Because I just wanted to learn about them. And then I went along and did the end of my degree. I went back to Melbourne House and I had the opportunity to work on reverse engineer in many respects, the very first Nintendo back at Melbourne House. And we built all sorts of fancy interfaces for this games machine where we put RAM chips in so we can download our own programs and do it and see how the Nintendo would interact and all that sort of stuff. So the Nintendo was an interesting computer system to work on. And we built other fancy stuff. By now, PCs had just come out, so we could put a cartridge into the cartridge slot of Nintendo, and then it had cables coming out of the top of the cartridge, and we could copy any game straight onto a PC and take a look at the code and that sort of stuff, how it worked. As we began to get our brains and the company's brains around how to actually uh, develop things for a Nintendo system. I think one of my claims to fame is I was probably the very first person in Australia that blew up the Nintendo. I had my oscilloscope out on it, and next thing I know, it's not working anymore. But great times, and I got really hooked on games. And I remember I went from working playing those sort of games. I played the games like Ultima and RPG games, and I loved doing all of that. But then there was a game that came out, and it really, in some ways, for me, it changed a lot of things. And this particular game, of course, was Half-Life. Why is it that Half-Life changed everything for me? Um, because it melded like it was a first-person shooter. If you remember, before that we had it was basically all 2D type games. Then we had Wolfenstein came along, and you're shooting all these Nazis and creatures, and that was where the birth of Doom came from. And then you had Half-Life, and what they did was they had great graphics, and that was really cool. Um, I love the great graphics. They had also really an amazing soundtrack, not just music, but just the special effects to really pull you into the game. They then added on top of that great gameplay, but more than on top of that, it still was a fantastic story where you're Gordon Freeman basically trying to fight off an alien invasion, and you're going on this amazing journey, an amazing adventure. And it truly was an adventure. So Half-Life came out, and I played that. I don't know how many times. I played that a lot. I over and over and over again, just exploring different things, aspects of it. Um, and then moved into strategy games. I love strategy games and played all the Total Wars, from Total War Shogun Gun to Medieval to Rome to Empires to Shogun 2 and so forth like that. I love the tactical and the strategic sides of those games. Um, then about I think it's about 10 years ago, I can't remember exact time frame, there was a new version of Half-Life came out. And this particular version of Half-Life introduced a new character called Alex. And you had some amazing things. The engines to develop the games have really come of age. They come of age in terms of they had a lot more physics involved and things like that. So you had a gun, a gravity gun. If ever you played any of these games, you understand this. And the gravity gun, which you could suck things towards you and then shoot them out at, say, the enemies. So I remember one time I was around like a workshop, and so I sucked saw blades towards me in the gravity gun, and I'd shoot them out at the zombies. And it was a bit gory, but it was a lot of fun. It was great fun. And once again, they got that balance of having a good story, and that's by Valve. And but that was a long time ago. It really was a long time ago. And so as my journey with gaming went along, of course, about 4 years ago, the Oculus came out, Oculus Rift. And the Oculus Rift is virtual reality, and you're putting the headset on. You got controllers and all that sort of stuff, and that sounded great. And one of the first things I did, by the way, was download the Unity 3D development environment and began programming my own little world that I could walk around with my Oculus on, and that was a bit of fun. But the thing that that really struck me was I remember playing Eve Valkyrie. Eve Valkyrie, you're seeing a starfighter. So I'm sitting in my seat in my study, and I got my Oculus Rift on, controllers and so forth like that. And you're launched out of a tube, just like in Battlestar Galactica. So, whoosh, and you feel like you're going to get pushed back in your seat, and you look down at your arms on the controllers, and like on the thrust and the joystick and everything. And you look down there, and you see you're wearing a flight suit. You flex your arm, and your arm moves, and you get that sense of presence in VR where you're inside of the game, and you're looking all around the enemy like this, and it really is, it's quite a phenomenal experience. So in the end, I end up viewing games as not being something you see on a screen, but I view games as being all around me now. VR has really changed everything. If you have not experienced VR, you've got to do it. Like, it's come of age. VR and augmented reality, all those different reality type things. And I can see that down the track is that um, we'll have conferences or business meetings will be in VR. It really will happen. When I think it's as bad as it gets right now, it's just phenomenal. So um, anyway, so I've really enjoyed playing a lot of VR and everything, and it began to wane off a little bit for me. But then this game here came out, Half-Life Alex. It's been like I think it's over a decade since Half-Life 2 or something like that. It's been a long time. And Half-Life Alex came out where you play the girl, and it's I've never experienced a game like this. I remember I played it for an hour, and my wife said to me, Rosen said to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, what?" He said, "You look exhausted." And I said, "Yeah, I am. I've had this incredible workout in this game. Like you got to play it standing up. Like sitting down, you wouldn't get the full experience. But you're literally leaning around corners to be able to see around the corner, and you've got your gun in your hand, and you're wanting to shoot around the corner at, say, some creature coming towards you from another planet. Or there's some scenes where you've got a flashlight in one hand and you've got a gun on the other, and it's like from the movie Aliens from years ago, but back in the 90s, the James Cameron movie. And you got this flashlight going all over the place, and you're trying to keep the flashlight on the creature at the same time as shooting them, and it's just. Or then you see, and you got these gloves on as well, and the gravity gloves. So I can point something with my glove, and like say a new magazine of bullets, and I can suck them to my hand, catch them midair, eject the expended bullet cartridge out, bang, slam the new one in, load the first round, and be ready to shoot the bad guys again. It's just, you're doing all of this incredibly physical game. Um, and in terms of presence, remember I talked about presence with some of the Half-Life games, the incredible soundtrack story and all that sort of stuff. Exactly the same, except this time, rather than looking at something on a screen, I'm experiencing it. I am Alex. I am walking down a dark alleyway. I am trying to jump over a fence. I am trying to dodge bullets and that sort of stuff as they ricochet around me. It's probably the best VR first person shooter type game I've ever played, and it is an amazing experience. So I haven't finished it yet, so I'm still playing that game. But then um, towards the end of last year, I actually got hooked on another game, and this other game was No Man's Sky. It was in VR, and No Man's Sky. If you haven't played No Man's Sky, uh, it's an interesting game where you don't have really an objective. You're in it's a science fiction environment, and you can go from planet to planet and all that sort of stuff. But there is a storyline, but I just ignored it because it's just so much fun exploring. Like, it's all a procedurally generated universe. So there's places that players have never been to. And some of the sites, if you know the movie The Martian, and you have those sites that Matt Damon's character goes along, looks at the Mars, and there's this nice music and all that sort of stuff, and it really is pretty cool. There's many experiences like that. It got to the point where I said, okay, that's it. I bought the new Oculus Rift S, and I think I upgraded my graphics card on my computer, and I gave my old one to my friend that we used to come to my house when I was like 12 years old. He works with me, by the way. He's a fantastic guy, and so he's now in there. So when we play No Man's Sky, we play together in virtual reality. So I see him there, he sees me, he comes to my base, and I show him how I redesign. You can design your base yourself. You can like level half a mountain if you want to when you're sort of your terrain manipulator, and then build your base inside that sort of crater if you felt like it. I've got 6 different spaceships, and we show off with different things we can do with them, and I can blast off into space, hyperspace to another solar system. Um, I've also just recently got myself a freighter. Think of a freighter, it's almost like a Battlestar at a Battlestar Galactica. And so I've got that, I can land on that. I've combated in space. It's like nothing I've really experienced before. It doesn't. There's the opposite of Half-Life Alex, where they got such incredible story and so forth, like, and it guides you down a path. But No Man's Sky is completely open. You just do whatever you want to do, and that confuses some players. To me, I find that's the most enjoyable aspect, where I just literally I'm flying along. I look at my friend; he's off my wing, and we're just flying along and just enjoying the sight. And then we'll say land somewhere, and we'll go on some adventure together, both of us. And we'll come back to our spaceships, take off again, and go back to our base or something. It really is an amazing experience. So VR really, if you ask me, a few 4 years ago, I wrote an article on VR, and I said it was amazing and all that sort of stuff. And to be quite blunt with you, my interest began to wane a little bit. And part of the reason why is because I didn't have someone else I could share it with. But now I just said, stuff it. I've permanently given my friend my old Oculus and everything. But it's to have someone else in that environment with you, it really adds a completely new dimension. And if you're sitting there thinking, gee, what am I going to do while I'm being quarantined all this time? Hey, just go and get a VR headset, but you got a problem. They're sold out. Every version of the Oculus has been sold out. And in fact, I just looked about an hour ago, and it surprised me. But then I thought, well, it makes sense because everyone's going online, everyone's going to VR and all that sort of stuff to experience new and more exciting things while they're being quarantined. But when you get out of it, or if you've already got one, hey, hit me up. Like, I'll show you my base in No Man's Sky, and you can show me your base or whatever, and we can have some fun together. I know there's another guy. He's a client at ParkLogic, and we've played some games in VR together. Like, we just hook up, and he's like, he's in San Francisco, and I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and we connect, and we play a game together. It really is a great time. It is amazing. So, if you're a gamer, then please just hit me up in Steam or something like that. Of course, my name's Whizbang in the games, and my friend's name is Bosk. We've had those names for about 40 odd years, so it shows our age. And by the way, just on that, one of the things about ParkLogic, being one of the co-founders of it, is, yeah, I like all the business side, like all the uh, all that parts of all the statistics and all the numbers, and you've seen me report on that a lot. But I also like the technology. Technology. I love getting my hands dirty in code and that sort of stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And there's a few of us in the industry who are running companies. I think of Matt from Botus, for instance, and we get really involved in the technology itself. Why? Because we're not just passionate about the business side of it, and we're passionate also about the technology. Why? Because we've grown up with all of this. But coming back to gaming, hit me up in Steam or something like that. It'd be great to hear what you're doing in your quarantine time. Are you playing some games? Are you a secret closet gamer? Then come online and join me. Thanks a lot for that. I hope you enjoyed hearing another aspect of my life and sharing it with you. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that video and that you find this information that I'm providing through my blog and through these videos really interesting. Don't forget, subscribe, whatever you subscribe, so you don't miss out on the next installment I'm going to be releasing, or you can click on the push alerts on the website. So either two, but anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.